The Demon Within, Chapter 4. I could feel my body uneven as I drifted away from consciousness, everything from that day weighing on my shoulders, the weekend passing too quickly, like a blur, especially now as I think about school tomorrow. Everything Winter said to me, and the way he repeated everything to Star. There was a demon possessing me, prepared to do her worst to me and my friends. I couldn't stop the shaking as I was welcomed into the void, welcomed by the terrifyingly familiar red glow around us. "Welcome back," Curlia says, disgust in her voice as I turned to see her. Her deep red wings stayed beside her as her tail swayed side to side. I looked to her, every memory coming to my mind. I instinctively grabbed my side softly, my body shaking as I clutched the clothes over my skin. "Curlia, right?" I say, my voice stuttering. Her eyes widen, a smile coming to her cheeks. "Oh, goody, you remembered me this time." Her eyes turned black, glowing a deep red as her smile seemed to grow. I take a quick breath, centering my thoughts as I look at her. "Let me get this straight. You want to control me, to use me against my friends, because..." She groans and crosses her arms in front of her. "Because you sending souls to hell without killing them makes it very difficult to deal with them. Only you or someone in your bloodline can touch them. Now, if that idiot Silverstone was still alive, he'd at least be able to take care of that bratty girl." I couldn't help but chuckle. She glares at me, making me freeze back up again. "We don't like stray souls wandering around. The lost souls are enough of an issue." She walked towards me, and I could feel tears try and fill my eyes, my body shaking as I quickly took a step back. "So, what do you want?" I say, glancing behind me to ensure I don't trip over anything. "I want to finish my mission," she says coldly. "And my mission is to make sure we don't keep you as a problem, a threat to our society. You making demons think they could be good, and angels could be bad? You could ruin our plans. You could ruin everything." But they can be. You saw Ava. She fell, and you can see me. I'm doing everything in my power to be good, and Star is better. She's a half-blood. She doesn't count. Those disgraceful experiments of unstable magic are as bad as your uncontrollable outbursts, which, in fact, has made this both easier and so much harder. I glare at her as she smirks. Your uncontrollable power has made it so easy to slip inside this fragile place, breaking you little by little, forcing your hand. I glance down at my hands as she laughs. "Those two kids. I was really hoping my little push would make you kill them. But you didn't," she says, glaring back at me. "You were too weak to bear the consequences, so you took the pussy way out and sent them to hell for me to deal with." She sighs, circling me. "Oh, well, Enough," I say, my body shaking, but my voice surprisingly calm, contained. "You want to follow orders, but what if you don't? What if you just escape it? You could be good too." "Like hell I would do that. First of all, Satan himself would have my head." My eyes widen, the thought of an actual god coming to kill her if she weren't able to stop me. But then again, why wouldn't he stop me himself? "And second of all, why would you think I would give up all this power, all this violence I can get away with, just to be good? Boring." She laughed, a wicked laugh that rang through my ears. "Oh, and that lovely look on your face. Being able to torture you with every whisper, every word, making you lose control just a little more." She grinned, walking closer to me. I attempted to turn, trying to take a step away from her, but my feet felt tied to the floor. There was a pain in my ankles as I tried to turn, a sharp, warm pain. I didn't have the chance to focus on it or the time. Curlia was in my face with that wicked smile. "And the most fun thing about this..." I felt my throat get tight, hopeless, unthought-of words choking me. "Is that the more I break you down, the easier it becomes to take even more control, Emma." I flinch as she grabs the collar of my shirt, the sleeve of her deep red, long coat, ruffling up like the velvet material pressing against my neck. "And I know you. You aren't going to surrender yourself." I felt pure fear as she looks into my eyes. Her black scleras seemed as deep as the void around us, against her bright red eyes. "So, Emma, I'm about to have the time of my life breaking you down. Little by little, bit by bit. I felt her tail spiral around my leg, the tip of it digging into my flesh. Please, please don't do this! I plead as I see her eyes flicker, glowing brighter as her grip tightens, the collar of my shirt crunching up around my neck. I felt tears streaming down my face as I saw her shoulder twitch. My pleading eyes stared into hers as her footing changed. In my peripheral, I could see the glow of a fireball below me. Please, I choke out. I'm done playing nice, Emma. Prepare for a real hell, she said, laughing. I awake, screaming once again, not because of the fear, not because of the change, the falling feeling as I landed in my bed. No, I was screaming because of the surging pain in my side, a pain I couldn't get rid of, a pain that I couldn't heal. I could hear Star's quick footsteps coming up the stairs, a thud against the wall as she pushed herself off of it. I grabbed my side, the pain doubling as my hand made contact with my shirt. The fabric scraped against the burns on my side, and I curled into a ball, crying out in pain as tears streamed down my face. Curlia's eyes were burned into my vision as the burns seemed to get worse. I didn't even flinch as the bedroom door slammed open and against the walls. Emma, what's wrong? She said, running over to me. It hurts, I choke out, shaking in pain as I feel the charred and blistered skin brushing against the fabric. I could see her shaking, her hands hovering over me, confused about what to do and where to start before she closed her eyes quickly, grabbing the blanket and throwing it to the side. I choke on my tears, a scream stuck in my lungs as part of the blanket rips against the burns. I heard Stark gasp before the feeling of the pain started to fade quickly. I felt the warmth of her healing magic and saw the faint blue glow of it through my tears. I was still crying, fear running through my blood even after the healing was done. I couldn't stop shaking, even as she picked me up, gently holding me. Emma, hey, it's okay, I'm here, you're safe, she says softly. Shush, it's okay. After about 20 minutes, I heard soft footsteps coming up the stairs. I was staring at the floor, scared to close my eyes, but also scared to look anywhere but this spot on the floor. This spot is just between my bedside table and carpet. Oh, God. Winter's voice echoed through the room as he walked into the doorway. I found her covered in burns, her whole side, Star said softly, rubbing my shoulder. Winter, it's getting worse. He growls softly and leans against the doorway. She's okay now? Winter said. I could hear concern laced within his words, but it was well hidden. They both paused and I could feel their eyes on me. I was so scared. If I told them how much I was losing control, I feared they'd distance themselves so they wouldn't get hurt. Even if that's all I wanted, I didn't want them to know. I remember it all, I mumble, confused about where to start as well as how to beat around this subject. Curlia's fire, I coughed, my voice shaking just as much as I was. I didn't know what else to say, and the room went quiet. I'm gonna stay up here a little while longer. You don't have to stay, Star said softly. Winter paused and sighed. All right. Let me know if she's okay afterwards, he says, just before his footsteps fade down the hall. I finally closed my eyes, pain surging through my body as the image of Curlia's eyes stared into my soul. Emma, what happened? I tense up, my body shaking as I force myself to look into them, trying to rid the fear of the image. Curlia's eyes stared deep into my soul. My body shook violently before her words ran through my head. Friends. I felt my body go cold, still, fear and anger rising as I suddenly became hyper-aware of Star holding me. I looked up at her, fear in my eyes, darkened by the magic flowing through me. She flinches as I just look at her, sitting up slowly, unsure of what to say or where to start. She moves, so I'm now just sitting beside her with her hands patiently on her lap. I looked down at my knees, anger festering as I could hear Curlia's laughter. It didn't scare me anymore, it just made me angry. The thought of her coming for Star. She's shown me that I underestimated her, I say, my voice shaking. I clear my throat and sigh. She's definitely got it out for me. I force myself to stand, crumbling with my shaking legs and hitting the carpet in the middle of the room. Emma! Star quickly hops off her bed and helps me to my feet again. I glare at the ground, anger covering any fear I had left. I'm fine, I mumbled, looking at her softly. I'm okay, Star. I couldn't help but see the sparkling of her blue eyes, the power in them glowing slightly. In that moment, all I could do was think of saving that light, that sparkle. I grit my teeth as the image of Kalia litters my mind, 1,000 ideas running through my mind, all of which were plans on how I could get Star the farthest away from this monster. The farthest away from me. I stood up again, forcing my legs to stay strong as I took a few steps towards the door, taking a few seconds to force a calm breath. But let's get some breakfast in our systems, I say, turning around slightly and smiling over my shoulder. You should put some normal clothes on, though, unless you want to go out in your pajamas. Ignoring the blood on them? Star said, pausing as she noticed it. I tense up and glance at my side. There was charred black blood that seeped through it. I sigh and nod. Yeah, you're right, I say, walking towards the dresser. I'll meet you down there. If you don't mind, could you fix me up a plate once you're done cooking? Yeah, I don't mind at all, she said, walking out the door. I give her a polite smile as she leaves, and I wait till I hear her footsteps down the stairs to drop the act. I let my magic flow freely, my eyes turning black and my body aching to let my wings free. I quickly grab my clothes for the day and head to the bathroom. I could feel the pain in my knuckles and fingertips from the pressure of my hold. My clothing feels like a knife in my hand as I grit my teeth. I closed the door softly behind me despite my anger. I couldn't let Star hear it. I was going to be the strongest one here for all of us. I glare at the mirror as Kalia plays tricks on my mind. I could taste the iron in my blood as my jaw tightened at the image in front of me. It was Kalia's reflection in the mirror. I could feel the fear in my pulse, but I continued to look at the mirror with hatred. You aren't gonna win this, I spit, the smile twitching off her face before the reflection fades to my own. So you can hear me. I felt some mix of anger and satisfaction in the smile that sparked to life on my face. I walked towards the sink, my head in my own mind as I autopilot through getting ready for the day. You've got some sick tricks up your sleeve, I mutter. Yet you fall for every single one. I could kill you so easily, she said calmly. I feel my grip tighten on the counter. I feel you should know very well that burning you isn't the only thing I can do to you in that mind space. Hell, I know the spells to kill you instantly. I felt a chill run up my spine. I know the spell Ava used to kill you, and I know it well. I felt anger overwhelm me, covering the fear that surged through my body. I slammed my hand out on the counter, the marble corner cracking and falling to the ground. I could hear her laughter in my mind as I felt the memories of that night flooding through mine. The whole stay at our aunt ran through my mind, just how I chipped off her countertop as well. I grit my teeth once again, grabbing the pieces and repairing them. Sorry to ruin your fun, but it's not going to work again. Nothing is. I spat, glaring at myself in the mirror, hoping she got it that I was staring at the image I had of her in my mind. You aren't going to get to them. I turn away towards the door again, my jaw tight in a familiar yet growing pain that pulsed through my shoulder and down my arm. I lift my hand towards the door to see it bleeding, red, swollen, and a gash over the knuckles and my pinky. I look down to see a trail of blood from the corner of the counter that went to where I was standing. I groan and try to heal, annoyed when it doesn't work. Anger made my clenched jaw hurt almost as much as my hand until the anger made me clench my fist, causing pain to triple all throughout my hand. I go back to the sink to wash off my hand, my knees buckling as I force myself through the pain, stumbling towards the counter before the blood causes more of a mess. I ignored the laughter in my mind as I knelt down to rummage through the cabinet to find the medkit. I sigh, trying to calm my nerves as I block out her laughter, remembering to breathe through the pain so I wouldn't have to get Star. I grab my medkit and pull myself up by the counter, hunched over the sink again as I pull out the rubbing alcohol and gauze. I knew that cleaning wounds was important, and if my healing was compromised, I couldn't just use my magic to do it. I look at the hand towels and groan as I grab one, biting down on it softly as I grab the rubbing alcohol. I remembered how much pain Star was in when we were little and had to clean any scrapes and cuts she got, and that was for small scrapes or road rash from falling. I can only imagine how painful this was about to be. I felt my breathing speed up as I got the cap off, already biting down much harder than I needed to as I glared at my hand. I felt my glare grow into anger as my eyes turned dark. If I needed to distance myself, I was going to have to start by taking care of my own injuries. They were going to start happening a lot more. I pour the rubbing alcohol over my hand, my eyes widening and tears coming to them, my jaw feeling sore as it clenches, my teeth digging into the hand towel. A scream forced down that just caused more pain. Pain that brought out my demon form, despite Kirlia's hold on my magic. The magic surged through my blood, causing a little bit of healing, enough to repair the bone and just a little bit of flesh. I quickly draw back the bottle, slamming it down on the counter and leaning over, taking deep breaths through my nose, scared to drop the towel in case I screamed. My vision was blurred by the tears in my eyes as I looked into the sink, taking notice of the streak of blood that dripped from the top of the drain. I glared at the rest of the medkit and then the blood up on the counter and ground. I flinch as I hear my name faintly downstairs. It didn't seem like they called me, more like talking about me. But I was taking too long. They would start worrying, and it would all be for nothing if I didn't pull myself together. I spat out the towel and grabbed the gauze with gritted teeth, wrapping my hand with it and ignoring the pain that seemed to surge through my whole arm, until I pulled it tight at the end. The pain it caused surged through my body. A scream I trapped down, coming back up quicker than my body could handle, causing me to cough instead of scream, which I was thankful for. I leaned over the counter again, choking on tears as I mixed with the blood in the sink. The pain was unbearable. I could feel it in my shoulder, my jaw, my arm, every single muscle in my arm. But if I was trying to escape death, or a fate that would cause my friends to be hurt, it was nothing, and nothing could be compared to the pain I felt with that spell. I let my anger come back to the surface, hoping I could rely on it to pull me through everything. My pulse quickening as I grabbed a hand towel, soaking it and quickly scrubbing the blood off the floor and the counter. I felt the pain continue to pulse through my hand as I kept it beside me. Even if I wasn't using it to scrub, it still felt so painful. As I was scrubbing, I could feel my anger calm down. My breathing returned to something even slightly normal, and the weight of my wings faded from my back as Kirlia finally grasped the rest of my power. I noticed her main focus was holding my healing magic back. I expected nothing more than a pulse of healing I got, but I did expect her to be able to regain control of my form much sooner than she did. I sigh as I glance over the bathroom one last time, trying to look for any droplets of blood I left. I scrubbed the blood from the grout between the tiles, the sink, the countertop, and even my nails to make sure I got all of it that I could. I was bringing the towel to the laundry room when Star came up the stairs. "Emma, you okay?" she said softly. I cringed, my back towards her and my eyes unable to focus in front of me as I searched for an excuse. "I'll be down in a minute. I ended up randomly getting a nosebleed, so I had to take care of that. I'm alright, though," I say, continuing to walk towards the laundry room. I quickly put my hand in my sleeve and waved the towel over my shoulder. "Just gotta put this in the laundry first," I say, forcing a smile over my shoulder towards her. She smiles and nods. "Alright, well, your breakfast is getting cold," she said, turning and going back downstairs. I sigh and toss the towel into the basket. I glance at my hand, bringing it out of my sleeve, confusion in my features as I look at it, trying to think of a way to keep this from her. I smile as I look towards our bedroom door again, remembering a pair of gloves we got last year. They didn't have fingers, it just covered the main part of our hands, stripes of purple across the rough black fabric. Star got stripes of blue on hers, and for about a year we wore them no matter the weather. I hoped with that she wouldn't even question why I was wearing them again, since the weather had been amazing. I throw some clothes out on my bed as I rummage for them, quickly finding them at the bottom and smiling wide as it covers all the bandages. I quickly run down the stairs, happiness coming naturally to me as I smell her minty batter. "Hey, Star, look!" I say, smiling and showing her the gloves. If I drew attention to them now, hopefully she wouldn't question them later. She smiles as she brings a plate out of the microwave. "Oh, you found them again! I was thinking of wearing mine the other day. Maybe we could start wearing them once it gets colder outside again." She sets the plate down in front of me. "It seems a little too warm to wear them again, but if it makes you happy, I don't see why we can't. I mean, it's not summer just yet." "Thank you," I say, sitting down and looking at the pancakes. "And I thought, why not? It's supposed to be a little colder today, and we could bring them into fashion again." She laughed and shook her head. I could see the doubt in her joking smile as she passed me the peanut butter. "I hope it's warm enough." She smiled, sitting down again. I couldn't help but notice Winter's nose twitching, his narrow eyes on my gloves as if he knew. I quickly ignore it and start eating. I finish my pancakes, and as I'm about to rinse off my dish, Winter clears his throat, looking at me. I hold back a groan as I get settled in my seat once again. "What happened this morning? You reek of blood, and it's driving me crazy," he said with an annoyed growl. I look at him, 1,000 thoughts running through my head, the fear and tediousness slowly being overcome by surprise and confusion. You can smell it? I say, more with surprise than confusion. Star quickly jumps up and slams her hands down on the table, making both of us flinch. Her excitement sparkles in her vibrant eyes. You do? She said, smiling. We both look at her a bit confused. It's like what I mentioned. You were in your wolf form so much, and so often even now. You have different senses than regular humans. I know you hear better. You're a little intolerant to chocolate. I see Winter's mouth open in protest. Every time you're eating breakfast, you've complained to me about your stomach. I kind of put it together that the chocolate chips and Nutella were the problem, since at lunch, with the regular pancakes, you were good. She clasped her hands together excitedly. It's super neat! And you seem to have more control over the muscles in your nose. At least, you seem to if it's not on purpose. You snarl when you're mad, even outside your wolf form. Star seemed overly happy about this, thankfully bringing the attention off of me and the bad thoughts that came with thinking about this morning. I glance at my hand, sighing to myself, knowing if he can smell it, then it's going to be an issue for him all day. I can only hope he doesn't find out, or make any deal about it, for that matter. Huh, Winter said, pausing and looking at himself. That is pretty neat, he said, smiling up at Star, with his tail wagging softly. I smile, hiding a giggle as I notice him acting like a puppy around her, feeding off of her excitement. Well, I guess I should know better to be eating chocolate, but it's not going to stop me. Star rolls her eyes. If it starts getting worse, you have to stop. Dogs die from chocolate. I can't lose you to something so tasty, she said, pouting. Ha! Like a little chocolate would be my death. I'm way too cool to die to something like that. I couldn't help but laugh softly, my eyes dulling as I noticed his tail stop wagging and his hyper front leaving. I sigh and smile at Star. Well, it would be bad either way if you were to die, I mumble. Star would have no one to gush over. Hey! Star says, glaring at me. I couldn't help but smile as I finally stood up, putting my dishes in the sink and rinsing them off. You know I'm right. I glance over my shoulder to see her glaring at me with bright red cheeks, Winter smiling at her softly. Well, it's mean to call someone out like that, she said, pouting and crossing her arms. But we've got to get to school soon, so you better get ready since you took forever to get down here to begin with. I flinched, my hand tensing up at the pain I was ignoring, as it seemed to pulse through my arm. I smile and sigh. Yeah, I guess you're right, I say with a soft chuckle, hiding my pained expression. I'll be right back then, I say, quickly grabbing my backpack from the closet and walking upstairs. I could hear Star giggle softly and then go back to talking to Winter. I felt a cold chill run through my arm. Sighed as I ran into the bathroom, grabbing the medkit and stuffed it into my backpack, then went into my room and grabbed the spellbook to hide it in case Star looked in my bag. Being all secretive like this will only push them away, Corlia whispered in my ear, making me jump, a scream trapped in my throat as I bit down on my tongue. I heard her laugh as I shook my head and glared down at my bag, zipping it up. Good, I mutter, walking down the stairs and smiling at Star and Winter, who were waiting with their bags already on their shoulders. Going to walk again? Star said softly, a calm smile on her face showing no judgment or any hint of being pushy or disappointed. It made me smile as I nodded softly. Yeah, besides, I think my legs need more muscles than my wings lately. You know you don't have to make excuses, she said softly, patting my shoulder. I smile and shrug. I know all that stuff is hard to deal with, so you can do whatever to make it a little easier on yourself, and I won't mind. I'll support you 100%. She smiled, a wide, optimistic smile. Yeah, I know, I say softly. I looked at the ground with a calm breath. Thank you, I mumbled as she started heading out the door. I couldn't tell if she heard me or not, but I could see Winter smile softly. As we got to school, I couldn't help but watch the clock as the hours ticked by. The whispers of Corlia rang through my mind, and the pulsing of pain through my hand made it difficult to work. Difficult to think of anything but the control she had over me. It was hard to make Star not worry about me. I couldn't do much work. I couldn't hold a pencil, and even the movement of computer class put stress on the bandages around my hand. Star was helping Winter study some more spells, most of the class, so thankfully she didn't notice anything. Even if she would, I'm sure I could convince her I was just slacking off. Ira, on the other hand, was a different story. She noticed something off about me, how I was relying on my left hand more than my right. She noticed me flinching when I brushed it against something, and she noticed the pained expression when I was writing. I was looking at the computer screen with an angry look, not understanding anything, and the bandages around my hand were dry, almost stuck to the scabbing underneath. Pain making it uncomfortably unbearable to even research the topics we were assigned. I feel a gasp, my body holding back a scream as Ira pokes my side with a soft, teasing smile. I chuckle and glare at her. "What was that for?" I say, sticking my tongue out at her. She smiles and sits up a bit straighter as she turns to me. "You look sad today." I sigh and look around for some sort of excuse. "Lie to her," Kalia said with a laugh. "You're getting so good at it." I groan and shiver, disgusted at the truth in her words. "It's just been a rough couple of days. That thing that happened the other day kind of unlocked a handful of new problems," I mumble, not exactly lying, but skipping over the worst of it. "That person named Kalia?" I flinch as I see Winter's ears perk up and his eyes turn to us. "Yeah, she's kinda got my whole demon power under lock and key. It's just causing a few problems," I mumble, trying to ignore Winter's stare. I don't know if it'll help, but Miss Candace is in today. You could talk to her. She was the counselor I was talking about a little bit ago. Did you ever start talking to her?" I groan and run my hand through my hair with a guilty look. "I'll take that as a no." She sighed and smiled, turning back to her work. "You really should, Emma. It'll help, I promise." "I'll get to it one day, I promise. I understand that you're trying to help, but guess I just have a bit too much on my plate right now." "Even more reason to talk to her," Ira says, snickering and shaking her head. I sigh and turn back towards my computer, not before noticing Ira's face turn to concern as she looks at my hand. It was shaking over the mouse, my body not wanting to endure the pain to continue. "Emma?" she said softly, putting her hand out towards mine. I flinch, pulling mine away quickly to avoid the pain of her touching it. "Just to accidentally hit it off my books," I gasped, bringing my hand to cover my mouth to force down a scream from the pain that shot up my arm. The corner of the book had struck right into the middle of my pinky where the worst of the gash was. I looked at Ira, scared of the fear I caused on her face. I glanced past her at Star and Winter, who didn't hear me gasp, and then back at Ira with an apologetic look before I stood up, running off. I ran through the halls, my hand coming away from my mouth just to push the bathroom door open, almost slamming it against the wall as I ran in, happier than ever for the fact no one was in here. I glance around, unsure of what to do as pain pulsed through my arm. I ripped off my glove, glaring at my hand and the blood-soaked bandages around it. The corner of the book had ripped through the scab that formed, tearing it down the middle and tearing apart the bandages. "Please, please heal," I mumble, trying to force any bit of magic to the wound. I grip my teeth as the pain consumes me, pain pulsing through my arm as I swing it out of anger. My jaw clenched tight as I slam it into the wall beside me before crumbling to my knees with even more pain through each of my knuckles. Tears stream down my face as I glare at my hand, the shadows doing no justice to the blood-soaked bandages. I press my head against the wall, the cold tile feeling calming as I sit there with the pain pulsing through my arm. The warm pain. "Please," I mumble, begging Kalia to at least give me something, anything. I sit there on my knees for about 5 minutes before I hear someone walk towards the door. I flinch, scrambling to my feet, tears flooding my eyes as I push off the ground with my injured hand. As I come up, I see Ira holding a small piece of paper in her hands with a soft smile. "There you are," she said, walking towards me. I clear my throat and stand up straight. She opens her mouth to talk before she stops, looking through me. I stared at her concerned before I saw the wall out of my peripheral. There was a small crater where I had punched it. "Did you do that?" she said, carefully approaching me. I looked down at my hand and noticed the blood on my knuckles. "Yeah, it seems I did," I mumbled. "What kind of person doesn't know that they broke a wall?" Kalia laughs, tears coming to my eyes as I anticipate her next words. "So uncontrollable, even without access to your powers. A true monster at heart." I looked down at the ground, trying and failing miserably to hide the tears from Ira. Hey, it's okay, we can repair it," she said calmly, putting her hand towards me, stopping when she realized the bandages and blood on my hand. "Emma," she said softly, pain in her tone as she looked up at me. "She does have control of your healing," she said, more confirming it with herself than asking. She puts her hand on my shoulder as she notices me choke back tears. "It's okay." She's right. I choke on my tears as I talk. I should listen to Winter and get rid of my demon. I'm too uncontrollable. I look up at her and then notice her eyes glance back at the wall, making me cry a little harder. That wouldn't even help now. I'm uncontrollable without my demon. She's got control of every bit of my magic, and I still manage to break things. I bite my tongue as anger seems to fester towards myself, towards my own anger. But even now, it wouldn't matter. I'm too strong. I'm going to hurt people. I'm going to hurt you, I say, crying softly, looking up at her with fearful, guilty eyes. Hey, don't say that. You aren't uncontrollable like that anymore, and your demon is what makes you, you. She hugged me tightly as I cried, pain running through my arm as I hugged her back. Curlia is just making things really stressful for you right now. You aren't uncontrollable, just a little stressed. She pats my back softly as I cry. I feel her hand shift as she seems to go quiet. May I see your hand? She said quietly as she pulled away. I feel my body tense up as she looks at my injured hand. Without the bandages? I feel my throat tighten, my breath choking on the tears. She looks up at me, kindness in her soft smile. I promise I don't mean to hurt you. I assume the bandages are there for a reason, and if I made the spell right, I can help you. I couldn't help the anger and fear that made my eyes flicker black. I could hear Curlia laughing in my head as she made me show signs of anger towards her. Ira flinched and took a step back, but kept a calm and kind expression on her face. Well, isn't she following after Ava well? Eager to use some spell on you? Curlia chuckled as her whispers went from my right ear to my left. I closed my eyes, gritting my teeth and forcing myself to ignore Curlia and trust Ira. She smiles, her eyes lighting up a bit as I unwrap my hand. Don't worry, I've been practicing this one. I'm sure it'll work. It worked on my flowers. I chuckle as I carefully unwrap the last of the bandage. The mood changed as she sees the damage. How did this happen? Ira said softly, looking up at me and carefully holding my hand. Don't worry about it, please, I say, looking at the ground. What are you doing, anyway? She just smiles and glances at the back of the paper, rehearsing some words as she places the paper on my hand, written side down. The words she said didn't sound familiar, but the way she said them sent a chill down my spine. Won't you protect yourself against this magic? It's killed you once before, Curlia said. Her tone was odd, like she was eager, just like the protective magic that flared up when Ira started talking. I shut my eyes tightly, trying to block all of it out, confusion littering my face as the pain that shot through my arm with every heartbeat finally stopped. I opened my eyes to see Ira smiling wide, her eyes big but also squinted with her smile. It worked, she said, smiling wider and looking up, meeting my eyes. I knew I did it right this time. I smiled at her as she seemed so proud of herself, my hand healed with the spell she used. How long have you been practicing that? I say with a soft chuckle, examining my hand. She chuckled softly. Since the first club meeting? So, quite a while now. I thought if I could find a spell about healing, then I could help when Star isn't around, or when you're trying to avoid her so she doesn't worry. I open my mouth to protest, but stop and sigh. I just don't want her hurt, I mumble, putting my hands in my pocket. I know. I can try you out some of these spells. I'm pretty sure you won't need a chance since you actually have magic. She smiles softly at me. Yeah, I'd like that. Thank you, Ira, I say, picking up the old bandages and throwing them out. She nods and starts heading towards the door. I flinch as I think back to Star and Winter, who would have definitely noticed our absence by now. Ira, wait, I say, reaching my hand out and quickly pulling it back, surprised at my own actions before she turns around towards me again. Yeah? Can you keep all this a secret? I really don't want Star to worry, I mumble, not wanting to make up some half-baked lie. I assumed so. Don't worry, just promise me that you'll talk to Miss C later, okay? She said, coming back towards me and grabbing my hand softly. Yeah, I'll try, I say, smiling. Okay, well, come on. I want to show you the work I have for that assignment, she said, pulling me out of the bathroom. About an hour more passes, and we're walking outside for lunch, laughing at Clinton and Carl as they push past everyone else, chasing after each other. Ira quickly followed them. I smile as Star and Winter walk in front of me, all of us walking over to a small hill where we've been eating lunch. A picnic table perched at the top, only half the time we sat at. This time we decided to sit at the nice cold grass. It helped pull me slightly from my thoughts as they raced. Curlia had not stopped taunting me since we walked out the door. Star and Winter were sitting beside me in a small circle as Ira, Clinton, and Carl were running around chasing each other. "Is that a knife?" Curlia whispers in my mind, her voice pitched differently, almost sounding like Star's. The only reason I jumped, quickly looking towards Clinton and Ira who were chasing each other, laughing and smiling. I felt my heart booming in my chest, pain shaking through my ribs as I tried to settle it. The hold Curlia had on my protective magic only made it hurt worse as it tried to come to the surface. I felt the muscles in my body tighten, ready to jump up and chase Clinton. My body is ready to do its best to defend everyone from him. My legs were ready to spring up, throwing myself off the small hill to attack him. I felt my eyes burning into Clinton as he laughed along with Ira, tagging her and then bolting off towards Carl. My anger visibly consumed me as my fists clenched tightly beside me, my jaw tight as I bit down on my tongue. Curlia's laughter echoed in my head. I glared more, my teeth digging into my gums as my jaw got stiff. My nails dug into my hand, my legs cramping up with the tightened muscles. It wasn't until Star cleared her throat, nudging me softly to take a bite of my lunch, that I snapped out of my anger. I could hear Curlia groan as her grip on my thoughts faded. I looked at Star, my eyes softening and showing my tiredness. I could see her worried look. She seemed to know this time, though. Her eyes just looked worried, but understanding. I sighed and picked at my sandwich as I calmly looked at our friends. I glanced at my hands. My palms were cut slightly from my nails, and I groaned as I ignored it. It was just as bad as a paper cut anyway. It would heal fast even without my magic. But it made me think. Even if I had no control over my magic, I was still so much stronger than a normal human. The only difference without my magic is that my body doesn't have the constant healing to support the extra damage and strength I use on a daily basis. I still broke the marble countertop of our bathroom sink and the wall in the bathroom. It almost made me smile knowing I was still strong enough to help my friends if they needed it. I could still carry their books, chase them around and win races, lift things they couldn't. Until you hurt someone with that extra strength. It's bound to happen, Curlia said with a chuckle. I sighed and put my elbows on my knees, my hands coming up to my ears to try and block it all out. Of course, she was in my head. Covering my ears did nothing to stop her teasing and smart-aleck remarks. But it did feel nice just to rest my head, close my eyes and ignore everything, or at least attempt to. "Hey, Emma, can I ask you something?" Winter says, nudging my hands away from my ears. I glare at him, groaning as I sit up. "What is it?" I said, as politely as I could. I could see Star shaking her head at Winter quickly, trying to hint to him not to talk about it, but Winter didn't seem to see. I knew from the moment he nudged my hands I didn't want to hear him. The way he started his sentence was laced with, "Want to hear something you're gonna hate?" "I was wondering if you've thought more about the spells." I flinched, my body jolting with fear and anger before I forced it down and looked at the ground with anger. I let my hair fall over my face, hiding my expression from them as I thought. I did want something to be done about Curlia, and there was no use trying to hide my resentment for my demon form right now. The resentment she was causing. She's making me hate all of the power I had, and have even now, but I was trying too hard to show that demons could be good. I grit my teeth as I look at the blade of grass, bent but still blowing in the wind. "Don't you remember that wonderful spell Ava used? All of them, even. Remember how the spells hurt Star?" I felt the muscles in my shoulder tighten as I closed my eyes. "Winter," I say sternly, slowly sitting back up, calmly. Fixing my hair and looking at him, I could see his tail curled tightly beside himself. Some mix of uncomfortability and fear laced in his body movements as he tilted his head downward, showing he's listening and ready for me to continue. He glanced at Star, and his ears tilted back, finally getting the hint as she looked hurt. "If anyone is going to do a spell on me, it's going to be myself." I flinched as Star sat upright more, speaking with fear in her words, her voice cracking as anger formed in her eyes. "No!" We all looked at her as she struggles to find the words, quickly shaking her head and continuing. "No more spells! Not with you!" The sudden commotion quickly attracted our friends. They made their way up the hill slowly, still chatting to each other. "Starine, I will be fine," I say, a little annoyed. "No!" she snaps, glaring at me. "No more spells with you, and that's final! I don't want to lose you again!" "Again?" Carl says, coming up to us. Fear in his eyes as he looked at me, then at Clinton like it was somehow him who did it. Clinton looked between all of us with just as much worry, almost like he blamed himself, before Star groaned and stood up. Ava killed Emma! Star choked on her words as tears filled her eyes. She glared at Clinton and Carl like they were stupid for not knowing by now, even if, when I finally explained it, they were gone getting ice cream. She came into our aunt's house, ambushed us with countless people there. I flinched as I saw Clinton and Carl's eyes widen, their bodies stiffening up a bit as they stared at each other. And they used a spell, killing Emma in front of my own eyes. Ira looked uncomfortable as Star yelled. She killed her in cold blood with a spell, and so I'm tired of spells like that being in her life. She snapped, glaring at me as I looked at her, annoyed and unamused, like she was some helicopter parent stopping me from doing something that would probably benefit me. So no more spells! I pulled Star into a hug, calmly holding her. Sure, she was annoying me, but I knew she was just speaking out of fear. I didn't blame her. I understood her fear. I understood it all too well. But I knew something needed to be done about Curlia. I knew these spells were the way, but I wanted full control of whatever spell it took. I am not going to die again, I say softly, flinching when I open my eyes to see Carl hugging Clinton, quietly sobbing. I couldn't hear what they were saying to each other, but Clinton looked to be consoling Carl. Ira softly patted his shoulder and smiled at Clinton's words. It was a soft smile that seemed kind of awkward, but it was a smile nonetheless. I sigh and pat Star's back as she sobs into my shoulder. You aren't going to lose me again, Star. And, Ira says loudly, making both of us jump. Star wipes the tears off her face and wipes away the snot from her nose. If anyone ever tries to lay a finger on you again, I will kill them. She smiles, a big goofy smile as she makes a fighting stance. I snicker as it makes Star laugh. Ira laughs softly after trying to draw the attention away from Clinton and Carl as they turned away, walking down the hill a little bit. I smile and lead Ira over to where I was sitting softly, smiling and offering her some of my lunch. Don't worry, I'm not really hungry anymore, I say, handing her an orange. Star, you should explain to Ira what the plans are for the club next time we meet up, I say, trying to start some sort of conversation between them, glancing over my shoulder at Clinton and Carl. Star quickly smiled, wiping the last of her tears off her face and starting to talk about the first-level spell she's teaching, which led them to talking about how Ira learned the healing spell, but by then I had walked down the hill without drawing attention to myself and towards Clinton and Carl. Hey, I say softly, walking up to them. I reach my hand out slowly, my eyes soft as I look towards them, only to have Curlia play a trick on my mind. I could see Clinton and Carl in front of me, but the surroundings seemed to change momentarily, like I was in the alleyways again. But with Jason and Devon. I quickly draw my hand back, afraid to hurt them and seeing through Curlia's tricks. I close my eyes and calmly breathe as they turn to face me. Emma, Clinton starts, quickly getting cut off by Carl's crying as he leaps towards me, hugging me tightly. Emma, I am so sorry. I know we said it before. I know it wasn't our fault, but I didn't know. I'm sorry. Carl cries as his hug gets tighter around me. I lift my arms up, awkwardly chuckling at Clinton. I expected some protective jealousy I've started to see in him, or maybe the guard he always puts up around me, but this time I just met his eyes. I could only see regret. Hell, I could see tears in his eyes as he calmly looked at me. I tuned out Carl crying as I looked at Clinton, the pain and anguish in his eyes as we looked at each other. I've never seen someone look so regretful, especially since they didn't do what they think they did. You guys didn't do it, I mumbled, unaware of my vocal thoughts. It was a point I was trying to find the words to get to, but I guess saying it straight out works as well. I flinched, shaking my head, smiling as I finally hugged Carl back, continuing to make eye contact with Clinton. What do you mean? He said softly, his eyes looking at Carl with a little relief. I mean, if you're talking about how we were under the spell, we understand that, but no! I clear my throat as Carl's grip starts to get tight. You guys weren't even there that night. I continue to pat Carl's head softly. Carl looked up at me, big tears in his eyes and sniffling. I cringe, a small smile on my face as I noticed my sweater wet with his tears. We didn't kill you? No, you didn't, I say, smiling softly. I don't know why you guys weren't there, but it was the only real thing I remember, a blank space where you guys weren't. I could see great relief in Clinton's eyes, and Carl finally lightened his grip as he smiled. Maybe it was planned, or maybe you guys were able to evade that spell for that time, but I am so grateful you guys weren't there. I softly pushed Carl away and then smiled at them both. And who knows, maybe it was part of Ava's plan. You guys were pretty resilient towards her spells, so I'm sure if she brought you two along, you'd just cause her trouble. I joke, nudging Carl softly and getting a small smile out of the both of them. I can't express how much of a relief all of this is, Clinton said, running his hand through his hair with a soft sigh. When I heard it, all I could think about was how I... Hey, don't think about that, it's in the past now, I say, smiling at him softly. Besides, if we get all hung up on it again, we're going to be late. The bell is bound to ring any moment now, I say, heading towards the door. Clinton and Carl quickly follow beside me. I'm still really sorry, Carl said softly. I couldn't help but chuckle and mess up his hair. You have nothing to be sorry about. As we walked inside, I glanced over my shoulder to see Star and Winter laughing softly. I looked around my other shoulder, a bit confused as to where Ira was, until I felt a quick poke to my side, making me jump, scaring both Clinton and Carl beside me. I couldn't help but laugh as Ira ran off, her laughter filling the halls as we continued to walk to our class. Star and Winter shook their heads as they walked up to me. You guys saw her sneaking up on me, didn't you? I say, glaring at Star playfully. Yeah, but it's adorable how you guys chase each other around. It makes everyone smile, every time. I smile as I notice even Clinton and Carl laughing a little as they walk into class ahead of us. I shake my head with a soft chuckle as I walk into class, happily sitting down at my desk. I didn't really have a plan for today, but I noticed Winter take out his spellbooks, and I couldn't help but read along with him as he went over the spells he'd thought of. I noticed the many sticky notes of spells he'd already tried to talk about. Spells that were marked in red, yellows, and blues. There were just so many spells he'd already studied, and too many to mention, that were all pointing towards me in my demon form. And now, more recently, Kirlia. I shuddered as Winter flipped over pages, looking at one for a moment. It was marked in red, and there were noticeably a few more sticky notes around it. I could feel Kirlia go silent. I glared at the paper, connecting the dots that either the spell Kirlia used was in there, or the spell to get rid of her was there. I flinch as a crumpled-up piece of paper lands nicely on my desk, bouncing a few times before settling just before the edge. I glance behind me to see Star looking at me, a little bit of an annoyed glare in her eyes. I pick up the paper, uncrumpling it to see her note. Please stop reading those spells. We don't know what they could do, and Winter won't tell either of us. I sigh, a soft groan in my breath as I write below. Don't worry. I pause, not really knowing what to write. A few thoughts cluttered my mind, some edged on by Kirlia as lies. I'm just trying to remember the spell Ava used to avoid it, I write finally. It wasn't exactly a lie, but I didn't want to tell her I was really planning to study every spell, figure out what I could do, what caused this, and what I needed to avoid. I crumple it back up and toss it over my shoulder back to Star. I look at my notes just to waste time as Star reads my writing. I hear it crumpled up quickly with a quiet grunt of annoyance. I turn, a little worried as I meet Star's angry eyes before she throws the paper at my face. I didn't even have time to react, so instead of flinching and letting my magic flare up, I let the paper hit my face. I shook my head and turned back around, glancing at Winter's book a few times more during class when Star wasn't looking. Even for the next 2 classes before school ended, I was reading over Winter's shoulder, trying to figure out anything, sadly not finding out anything more than what I already knew by the time the final bell rang. We walked outside before a lot of the other kids did, and I forced a smile as Winter and Star started playing tag, flying over the kids that flooded the field. I sighed as I tried to force even a little bit of magic to form my wings. To no avail. So I stood beneath them, cheering Star on as she chased Winter. I felt pain rush through my body, warm but cold as I coursed through my thoughts. Kirlia's voice was prominent in my own. Get the book. I glanced back at the school as adrenaline pulsed through my blood. These thoughts were heavy, like magnets drawing me back to the school. I quickly glanced up at Winter and Star as they flew around. My breath quickens as Kirlia's voice shouts, Get the book! He's going to use those spells against you if you don't. I don't know why her words seemed so truthful, like a fear I didn't realize was still there. Hey guys! I say, my voice louder than expected, but thankfully masking the fear and anxiety in my thoughts. I forced it all down as they stopped, still flying above me but letting me talk. I'm gonna head home. I feel like baking something, so don't wait up. Have some fun and win a few games of tag for me, I say, turning my attention towards Star. She smiles and nods with a competitive glare towards Winter. Will do, she says as she starts chasing Winter around again. Let the anxiety fuel my steps as I ran towards the front of the building so they wouldn't get suspicious of me if I were to run in the back doors. I slow down as I reach the doors, trying to stuff down the fear on my face as Curlia urges me to act faster. There were still a few kids around. It was only about half an hour since the bell rang anyway. There was still plenty of time before everyone had to leave. The clubs didn't stop until about an hour and a half after the final bell. "Hey, Emma, what brings you back?" Clinton says, opening the doors for me as both he and Carl move out of the way. "Move faster, you idiot," Curlia yells, making my eyes flicker for some sort of escape, some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card for their conversation. I just forgot something," I say, quickly moving past them. "Think so?" I forced a quick smile as he nodded, still holding the door open for Carl after letting me through. "See you later, then," Carl says, smiling as they both walked out. I jogged quickly down the hall into our lockers. "Get the notes." I felt pain as her words yelled at me, fumbling with the combination on Star's locker through the fear she was causing. "Come on, get them already!" I could almost hear Ava's voice as she said those words, my anxiety coming at me tenfold. "God damn it, Curlia, shut up for 1 second!" I muttered to myself, anger in my words as the lock clicks. "I can't do anything if you keep shouting at me." I swung the door open, almost surprised as I saw Winter's book in the corner of her locker. I felt sparks at my fingertips as I reached for it, confused as I lifted it onto my lap and analyzed every note, every word I could now see for myself. Much better than reading over Winter's shoulder, or without hiding it from Star. I felt my body move for me as I grabbed my backpack, grabbed the pile of sticky notes I had and began rewriting all of his, noting the pages and which sections of that page they were on. He knew so much more than I did, but I couldn't let him abuse that power he had over me. "He'll kill you if you let your guard down." Curlia's voice seemed so close to my own thoughts, striking fear in every nerve as I hastily wrote down some more notes. Minutes pass as I write, and after I've gotten pretty far, I couldn't help but stop and look over them, hoping I've gained enough that it'd be good to work on my own from this. There weren't many students or teachers left in the school anymore. It was eerily quiet as I looked over the book and my notes. Until it wasn't quiet anymore. Yeah, I guess with reading it so much, I kind of forgot to even put it in my backpack. I hear Winter's voice, more chipper than usual, before I heard the front doors close. "Run!" Curlia's thoughts mixed with my own now. It was a mutual thought as I quickly shoved the book back in their locker and locked it back up. "But that's the book you're reading, you dummy!" Star said, laughing softly. I quickly scrambled to pick up the many notes I created. One was stuck to the floor, which only made me and Curlia angry as I stumbled to pick it up. I could hear their footsteps around the corner, almost right at it as I finally grasped the paper, stumbling as I held all of them in my hands, my backpack still open as I stood up, trying to shove some of the notes in my pockets. "Run now, damn it!" Curlia yells as they turn the corner. I flinch, jumping a little at her voice as I begin to sprint off. I couldn't tell if they saw me or if they assumed I was just another kid running around as I turned the corner away from them. I quickly looped them, stopping by the front door to close my backpack and try and shove some of the notes into it beforehand. "Emma?" I flinch as Star calls out softly, turning my head to see her and Winter standing in the middle of the hallway, staring at me. Winter had his ears back. God, what was I thinking? He was gonna know! I flinch as I see Star tilt her head confused at the pile of notes in my hand. "Oh, what's with the notes?" Hey, I say, fumbling as I shove them in my bag, only to have some of them go everywhere. It's nothing, don't worry about it." I quickly pull my backpack up and around my shoulder after grabbing some notes, unaware of the ones that fell on the floor. She opens her mouth to speak as they start walking closer. I glanced at Winter, his spellbook tight in his arms as he glared at me, knowing something was up. Well, I say, quickly stopping Star from talking, even before she can start. "I'll meet you two at home. See ya," I say, quickly running out the door. "Emma!" Star says, anger in her words as she starts running after me. And that's all I could do. Run. I only heard one pair of footsteps after me before the door closed. I continued to run. Albeit fast, it wasn't as fast as Star could be some days. I flinch as I hear the school doors slam open again, both Star's and Winter's footsteps coming out after me. "What the hell are you doing, Emma? Those are my notes!" Winter yelled, his voice low, a growl, laced in his words as Star's footsteps stopped. I glance over my shoulder to see her start to fly, and then I see Winter turn into his wolf form to chase after me. No, they aren't!" I say, pain shooting through me as I lie, quickly turning a corner into the alleyways. Damn it, I mumble, grasping my backpack strings as I run. I felt fire under my feet as I ran, red-hot fire, forcing me to run. I took lefts, then rights, trying to lose them, and it almost worked. "Emma!" Star yelled as she lost sight of me. I could barely hear the flapping of her wings in the air anymore, and I slowed down, trying not to make too much noise for them to follow, sticking close to the fences so it would be harder to see me, hiding under trees whenever I could to take a small breath. My heart was racing, my blood pulsing quickly through my veins, my eyes quickly darting around at any small sound that hit my ears. "Emma!" Star yelled. It sounded much closer than I would have thought, and it didn't sound like she was calling for me. I felt my heart pound in my chest as I looked up to see her flying towards me. I heard something much like a bark as she started flying downwards. I felt my breath tight in my chest as I started to run again. The wind stung my eyes as I ran, tears forming in them, making it hard to see. My feet stung as I started to run for too long, that fiery feeling only burning hotter as I started to hear footsteps behind me again. They were faint, but getting closer, and as I weaved between the houses, it was hard for Star to keep up. But those footsteps only got closer. I almost felt like crying as I ran, fear in my blood, but those footsteps came closer. I could hear his breathing now, and as I turned a corner, it wasn't long at all before I could hear his footsteps slide across the gravel behind me. Until, for a second, it was silent. That second seemed so much longer as I felt the fear grow, knowing just what happened. I couldn't stop the scream that came from my lungs as I turned to see Winter in the air, teeth bared and claws towards me as he came down. His growling bark was full of so much anger as his claws made contact with my arms. I was thankful that my backpack stopped me from hitting my head on the ground, but I still felt so much pain as the rest of my body made an impact with it. His weight on top of me slams me down harder as his claws dig into my arms. I open my eyes to see his glowing a bright white as he bared his teeth, snarling at me. "Fight him!" Curlia's voice threw a pain into the last part of my body. My head ached as her words shouted at me. I held back, tears streaming down my face as I stared into Winter's eyes. They were full of anger, and his left eye was a deep black. "There you are!" Star said, landing beside him, out of breath. My heart ached with pain, Curlia shouting at me, Winter growling at me, and something else I couldn't place, like pure fear, or a flashback, or a memory of a dream, something that felt like strings wrapped around my thoughts, pulling them away from this moment. "What are you doing?" Star said, worry in her voice as she noticed Winter's claws and the small pools of blood they created as they dug into my arm. "Please, guys, it's not what you think, it's nothing," I say, pushing Winter off of me. I could see the surprise in his eyes as I did so. Hell, it surprised me too. The strength I had as I pushed him off me was more than I even tried to put into it. He jumped back slightly, growling more and snapping his jaws at me as I stood up. "What the hell were you doing? You stole my book and copied all of my notes. If I wanted you to see any of that, I would have let you." "Winter," Star said, quickly stopping once Winter spoke up again, his growling getting louder as his eyes narrowed on me. "Save it, Star. I want answers, demon," he said, changing into his human form as he took a threatening step towards me, his fists tight at his sides. I glanced at Star as she looked down at the ground, hurt in her expression as her wings tucked close to her sides. I looked back at Winter to see him furious as he stares me down. I bit my tongue, my magic flaring to the surface, yet still being held down by Curlia. The anger in his eyes seemed so unnatural, as even in his human form he bared his teeth. The muscles in his face twitched just like a snarl. "Fight!" I flinched as I felt my fist clenched beside me. Pain in my body as I fought against Curlia's hold, her words screaming at me. "Fight him, damn it!" It all seemed to happen so fast. He took another step towards me, and I swung at him. My feet lined up perfectly with the swing, the power I had almost creating a shock wave as my fist made impact with his chest. Curlia's magic flared through my own. I couldn't blame it all on her, though. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted to protect myself from him. The way Curlia's magic coursed through my blood, releasing the hold to let more power through, also gave in enough to let me jump into my own demon form. There was no trace of my old colors. They were a deep red, every part of it, and it's all I could see too, even as Winter landed on his back about 3 feet from where he was standing. I breathed heavy as I stared them both down, Star standing just beside him, staring at me with fear as Winter did the same, still lying on the ground, pain in his eyes as he looked at me. But I couldn't help but feel the same fear as well as I saw Star's body shake as she stared at me. But as I tried to look away, I could only settle my eyes on my hand, The knuckles were red from impact, but there seemed to be a red flame sparking beneath my fingertips. I felt my mind being pulled away from me as I formed a fireball, hearing Star gasp as it glowed deep red. I looked up at her, but it seemed like I was looking through a computer screen. I could feel my wings twitching, begging just to fly off, and I fought with that feeling for control again. Control I knew I had lost. Leave me be. I felt the words leave my throat, unfamiliar on my tongue as the fireball grew. I felt my jaw clench as my mind reached out for control against Curlia. I felt like I was reaching into the darkness, towards this screen, fear in my body as that fireball lit up their features. Disgusting half-bloods. I felt myself jump towards that screen, my hand seeming to touch the screen moments before that fireball left my hand, aimed at the ground towards my friends. I flinch as I hear them gasp, their glowing eyes visible through the smoke, filled with rage. I panic, my eyes widening as I take a quick step back, full control of the fearful step before I turn, jumping into the air and using my wings before it's too late to fly away from them. I didn't get far. I maybe got 20 meters from them before all I could hear was Curlia chuckle, my wings disappearing quickly and sending me plummeting to the ground. I gasped as the wind got tugged out of my chest. I don't think so, Emma. Curlia's voice laughed as I looked into the air, my sweater hood pressed against my head, my sleeve slapping my arms against the wind, and my hair covering most of my vision as I fell. I could sense myself getting closer to the ground. It felt like slow motion as I fell, pain filling my body as fear made my muscles stiff, and there was a blur of blue across my vision before I felt a quick, sudden impact of the pavement below me, and maybe some grass hitting my hands. And then, nothing.